What is going on, YouTube? Coming back with tough post-game show. Texas falls short to Oklahoma State's final score of 41-34. Another double-digit second half lead. Just coughed up on the road. On the road has been obscenely bad for Texas at times, and the road games of the Big 12 continue to provide Texas issues. In Stillwater. Texas has a very sizable first half lead. Sorry for the quality of the video. It's kind of weird lighting, I know. But very sizable first half lead. It was one that I personally felt pretty good about for Texas heading into the locker room at halftime. All things considered, Mike Gundy mentioned heading into the locker room at halftime that he was happy that his team was still within a touchdown with the way things had gone. Texas was winning a lot of the battles on special teams, a lot of the little things that in years past that you don't really see Texas winning, especially against a well-coached team like Oklahoma State. And that usually gives a lot of confidence into what's happening and what will happen moving forward. But penalties were a big factor in this game. Texas finishes with 13, 14 penalties, over 110 yards. And that was severely costly to them. Another thing that was impactful was the communication. There was, I don't know what it was, but Quinn Ewers couldn't get on the same page with his wide receivers and any targets in the passing game for that matter. He a dozen plus targets to Xavier Worthy, finishing up with, I believe, 3 catches, somewhere in that ballpark today. Plenty of open opportunities, one of which was an opportunity for a deep ball in the end zone where Xavier Worthy was open and Ewers had him on a nice ball and Worthy just couldn't come up with it in the corner of the end zone. Multiple throws from Ewers, though, that just weren't anywhere. That basically he's just throwing it away. Even when he had his guys on target, there was a lot of overthrows. Oklahoma State's pressure, especially coming off the edges, clearly got to Ewers. There was a lot of plays where Christian Jones and Kelvin Banks have looked really solid this season, but guys like Tyler Lacey and Trace Ford for Oklahoma State really getting after the quarterback in this one. Really frustrating from the perspective of protecting the quarterback, where Texas offensive line looked much better through the first few games this season, but there were penalties along the offensive line. There was a really costly penalty late, which I don't know. It was on Christian Jones. It was a holding play that essentially brought back a 30-yard run for Quinn Ewers that would have probably dramatically shifted the way this game went. And Christian Jones, that was probably a hold. But to the same note, on Oklahoma State side, I saw at least 3 or 4 plays where you had a good where probably more severe holding was the case, because you finished with 0 penalties for Oklahoma State compared to more than a dozen for Texas. I don't know what the last time I saw that was, but in a Texas-Oklahoma State game, I know that there's been a lot of qualms with reffing in the past, but man, I don't think that reffing was the reason for this game, but it's another factor that contributes to a lot of the frustration for this. It just doesn't help Texas by any means. And so my next takeaway from this game is a lot of the play of the defense. There was shades of last season that you saw from the defense late in this game. Deshaun Jameson, who I've been really high on this season, he's had a very solid season, especially in pass coverage. He hasn't been the greatest in run stopping, but that's not his forte. He's always kind of struggled making that approach, those tackles in the open field when he comes up in run stopping situations. But in this game, he wasn't able to make a tackle in the open field. It seemed like there was a key play late in the game. Obviously, there's the one that sticks out where he couldn't wrap up Bryson Green that results in the game-winning touchdown for Oklahoma State. But there was another play to Oklahoma State slot receiver. He gets to the edge, and Deshaun Jameson wraps him that at least would have prevented the ball from getting within the 10-yard line. But he misses the tackle. Oklahoma State gets down to like the 2-yard line, scores a touchdown, I believe, on the next play. And it was just plays like that. Jaron Thompson kind of struggled with some of the open field tackling this one too. I know he's still a little bit banged up, but that was really disappointing to see. Deshaun Jameson and Jaron Thompson have both been having much, much better seasons, and this game really felt like a step back for both of them. The one positive I have to say for the defense is still the play of the interior defensive line. I know that this is not a game that many people are going to be drawing positives from, but the play of the interior defensive line was really, really good. You really have to give it to like Tavondre Sweat, Keandre Coburn, Byron Murphy. It was a great game from them. A lot of run stuffs. They were generating a lot of pressure from up the middle. A lot of the disruptiveness on Spencer Sanders was coming from the interior of the defensive line. The edge play was not bad. It was okay. You really didn't get much of the Spencer Sanders' dual threat ability wasn't much of a factor. He made some nice throws, but like it was Oklahoma State's wide receivers that were making a lot of plays in this game. And I mean, the edge players were doing pretty well. Barron Sherrill he continues to he's developed a lot as a run stopper. And that's a notable development because we don't really have a guy in a long time that's been able to, I say a long time, it feels like a long time, but in at least the last 2 seasons, a guy being able to set the edge like that is a true edge rusher. It's a big difference maker. You like to see him get a little bit more pressure up the field or a little bit more pressure on the quarterback. But I mean, the fact that he's able to at least be effective on run plays, on run defense is something, and it creates a role for him. But like I said, the interior of the defensive line, Mora Jomo, also guy who had a solid game. So those were some positives at least. The attention solely on the offensive side of the ball. So Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson had good games today, but I think overall that's where a lot of the positives end. You did see the tight ends getting involved late, but I would like to see JT Sanders getting involved a little bit more consistently. He had the game ended on a ball that just goes right off his hands into the Oklahoma State defensive back's hands. And that's ultimately what seals it. I wouldn't consider that an interception line. That was a very nicely placed ball by Ewers, who obviously Ewers had some difficulties today, to say the very least. But Sanders has to come up with that ball. He's got better hands than that. There's no other way to look at that. Yeah, I mean, Bijan and Roschon were both solid on the day. Had some nice runs, some explosive runs early in the first half. Roschon had one where he hit the hole and went for, I believe, it was like a 60-yard touchdown scamper, which was a really, really nice play. But yeah, the receivers this was not their day. Jordan Whittington had a drop in the second half that is just uncharacteristic of him. He wasn't really a factor in this one. I believe he finishes with one catch for 23 yards. Billingsley got involved late, which was the first we've really seen of Billingsley this season. But again, as a whole, not much of a factor. Sanders became a factor late, but I would like to see him involved a little bit more just wholesomely in the passing game. Brennan Thompson got involved early, which was a nice surprise. They got him on a screen that got downfield. Some nice blocking. Jordan Whittington threw a nice block on that play. I think it went for 30 yards. But again, you saw him on some early reps, but later on, not really involved at all. So that was kind of disappointing to see as the game progressed. But as a whole, I mean, the offense just stalled out. I talked a little bit I talked a lot this week heading into this game that Oklahoma State, from what we saw last week against TCU, was going to be the offense that felt like it was going to run out of steam. Just Spencer Sanders very bruised up. I mean, Oklahoma State comes out of this game more bruised up than they were heading in, but both sides had some unfortunate injuries in this one. That's the last point I'll get into here. But yeah, I mean, it was Texas offense that just in the second half had nothing. It was like Texas Tech, but almost somehow worse. I mean, what does Texas come up with? 3 points in the second? Yeah. God, 3 points in 3 points in the second half. You just can't have that. In this sort of game with playing an Oklahoma State defense that is this banged up, that you had their number in the first half. I don't kind of went away from the inside run game a little bit. And just like I said, the offense just looked out of sorts in the second half. No communication. They weren't on the same page. You had that weird little scuffle on the sidelines too with like Savion Red and one of the coaches. I don't know. The offense was in disarray in the second half. If it wasn't one guy, it was another guy that was the issue. It wasn't Quinn, it was Xavier. If it wasn't Xavier, it was Jordan. If it wasn't Jordan, it was Tavion. It was always something. And that at this point, that just can't be happening with this level of talent on the offense. So it's really that's my last point to the offense. There's a lot that we will break down in next week's show I'm sure, because heading into the bye week, Amanda Sark have plenty to dissect. But the last thing I really wanted to get into here was the injuries. I keep saying it. Ryan Watts has been banged up a lot lately, and you keep seeing how important Ryan Watts is to this defense. He's a very solid boundary corner. He had a really nice interception in the end zone that at one point really looked like it was going to flip this game for Texas. Ryan Watts goes out of the game, and Oklahoma State is able to start picking on Jameer Johnson a little bit more. Ryan Watts he's a problem at the line of scrimmage. The way he's able to stall guys with that press on the boundary, it really is. I mean, Oklahoma State had some nice plays early on, but like any of the plays they completed on Ryan Watts or any of the PIs, I think they had one PI that was drawn on him. And yeah, it was either like a perfect throw or maybe a little bit of a ticky-tack call, which there was a lot of those this game. But anyway, his injury was important. So Anthony Cook get pulled again in this game. Michael Tappan's been getting a lot of reps at safety. Yeah, but I mean, honestly, I don't really blame the staff. Cook's been letting some stuff get loose in the middle of the field. He's struggling a lot in pass coverage in the last couple of weeks. So, but anyway, that is pretty much it. Like I said, we'll be coming back in the next couple of days with our weekly show. Plenty to unfortunately talk about, not heading in the right direction here. This was a big opportunity for Texas to really, get going and finally get going on a path to a Big 12 championship game, have all the momentum on their side coming off the win over Iowa State, and then it just stalled out here. But anyway, that is pretty much it.